First of all, I want to thank you, Chair. I want everyone to realize that Speaker Prieto and Chair McKeon have been gracious enough to allow me to sit in on this committee and express my views on behalf of the hardworking men and women of Atlantic County and throughout the state. And to that, I am very appreciative and grateful, and say that in that sense the process certainly works, and I appreciate it.
You're always welcome here.
Well, thank you. And now getting to the resolution, I think there are a few important things that need to be pointed out. And I'm not going to repeat a lot of the testimony that I gave the last time I sat right here and discussed this bill. But one of the things I also find interesting about this resolution is that it's not certified with a fiscal note. And we all understand that a fiscal note is simply a statement of the anticipated fiscal impact that a bill will have on the state or local government. And we're talking about amending our Constitution to change the way one of our major industries, in particular in South Jersey, survives, and potentially change the revenue that the state receives and depends upon for our seniors and our disabled, as well as our general revenue. And I would put to all of you, and if you were a CEO of a company, would you not want a fiscal note on what this is going to do to our present business and our present structure? And if you didn't get a fiscal note, wouldn't you want to know what the percentage is of the money that's going to go back to the state? And if you wanted to have an intelligent conversation and not just perhaps just rush it through, wouldn't you want to examine the studies that have already been performed and say, how do they affect us? I would put forth to this committee and to anybody who is considering this, that if you were running a business, before you opened another franchise of your own business and competed against yourself, these are some very basic questions that you would know. So when I asked previously, well, what is this based upon? And there are no studies, and Atlantic City has not been given 5 years, and we do have an alternative plan. And there is money that will come in, and there are opportunities to do this right. So what we have in this bill through ACR is a complicated formula that makes promises about 2% to the horsemen, but they have no idea what that 2% means. And if they take the time to actually analyze it, they'll realize that they'll get less than the $30 million that was coming to the horsemen under the present formula that we use. If we looked at it and we said, well, we're trying to help Atlantic City, we would let Atlantic City know what exactly that means. In other words, if you're saying to Atlantic City, yes, up in North Jersey, our unemployment rate is only 6 to 8%. And we know down where you are, it's double that, 12 to 13%. And we know that you have the highest foreclosure rate in the nation, not just the state. Before we do any harm to you or our own state or our own people, we're going to analyze this and make sure that we get it right. Here are the numbers. And how do we know the numbers? Because we've set an interest rate and we've done calculations, real calculations. Now here's the irony. If you look at the actual studies that have been performed so far, even if you use 50%, the state loses money at the end of the day. But under the bill that's proposed, it's at 8%. So anybody who is told that they are going to get a portion of this money through the funding formula is not really being told the truth, because they don't know what it is or what it may or may not be. So when we look at assuming it's at 50% and use the studies that is currently out of there, you don't have to take my word for it. New York has already approved 3 upstate casinos due to open in 2017. And we know that with the approval of 2 casinos in North Jersey, that's only going to force New York to approve more casinos. But again, don't take my word for it. Peter Trombetta, he's a co-author of a recent report, Northeast Casinos Face Rising Tide of Competition. And it describes the cannibalization underway in a region where there are now 41 casinos and racinos, racetracks with electric slot machines, electric table games, and more on the right. He is pointing out that this notion, think of it this way. We say that South Jersey and our gaming industry is suffering due to an oversaturated market, and we're going to solve the problem by building more casinos. Who came up with that slogan? When you look at the former Democrat state senator, author of the Casino Control Act and Casino Control Commission, Chairman Stephen Persky, his quote, "Expanding gaming in North Jersey is going to do nothing other than contribute to even more of the political necessity of New York. A casino in North Jersey isn't going to keep any significant number of dollars in New Jersey that wouldn't otherwise have gone across the border. It just won't." Sheldon Adelson, owner of Las Vegas Sands, America's largest casino company, said New York will look at a Meadowlands casino and say, "We got to open in New York and keep the money in New York." Now, if the gaming market is only going to get more competitive, and if there are those who insist upon opening a North Jersey casino, whether it's a few power brokers, a few people with money and influence, the only way to compete will be to lower the tax rate in New Jersey. And if you lower the tax rate in New Jersey, you wind up with less money in the state coffers. If you are going to encourage somebody to build $1 billion casino, that's their investment in the bricks and mortar. That's why they did it in Atlantic City at 8%, because they got millions of dollars in real property investment. So if you are trying to lure and encourage 2 casinos to come in and build $1 billion properties, and you're telling them we're then going to tax it at 50%, you're being misleading. That's why we're starting, in my opinion, at 8%. But if you leave it at 8% or less than 50%, the numbers never work. There's not enough revenue generated in order to offset the losses that you receive from closing Atlantic County. And remember, in this life, we are all interconnected. And what you do to your brother, you do to yourself. And you're looking at a region that suffers 12% unemployment, the highest foreclosure rate in the country. So if we have any deference for other hard-working New Jerseyans, wouldn't we want to at least know what the interest rate is, and don't let any false or hollow promises be made about a percentage that's coming to anyone when we don't know what that percentage is? And I will tell you, this is not personal, and this is not North versus South. I've had the privilege to serve, and I refer to him as Chairman Caputo. He's the chairman of the committee, and he has always been fair and open, and we've had this vigorous debate now for a while. And I think it's fair of me to ask these questions. What is a tax rate? So that when you are telling people to go vote on a constitutional amendment, they know what they're voting on. We want an informed electorate. So the last point that I will make, and I will not harp on it because I have covered this in the past, but if you open 2 casinos, billion-dollar investments with full-blown convention facilities, gaming facilities, you will do even more damage to your existing industry than's already predicted by the experts. The experts, when they come to the conclusion that all you will do by opening a North Jersey casino is cannibalize your own business, they were counting on one in the Meadowlands and looking at it with basically slots. And I will agree with Chair Caputo when he points out that the Revel was a real boondoggle. And I will tell you that was corporate greed at its best. And the same promises that those corporate executives made to not just Atlantic City but the state were made at the height of the market, when greed was running wild, and when they realized that they could not even generate enough revenue due to the collapse in the economy to finish the building, they abandoned it. And when the Revel was finished, it was supposed to have 2 towers. And you needed the 2 towers in order to sustain the size of the facility and the size of the gaming floor and the revenue that was needed to generate. The minute they decided to build 1 tower in this, again, charade as though it was going to succeed, it was doomed for failure. The market is simply oversaturated by all accounts. Even in Pennsylvania, their own legislature did a study and a survey. And they realized that all we do by opening a new casino is shuffle the deck and move people that are already gaming to a new spot. Yes, you will attract some of the people that leave New Jersey and go outside, and you will recapture that revenue, and that will be nice. But it will not compensate for the overwhelming amount of revenue that you will lose ultimately and the harm that it will ultimately cause the state of New Jersey. And so for all those reasons, I would respectfully ask the chair if he would pull this resolution and allow us to further discuss it and delineate a fiscal note and what exactly the percentage will be.
We're voting, are you voting yes or no?
No.
Thank you.